The service door slams open. A man on crutches stumbles through. One rubber tip catches the metal threshold. His injured ankle buckles. He crashes onto the polished marble floor. A plastic water bottle flies from his hand. It slams into the marble. Crack. Water explodes across the pristine white floor. The bottle skids away as the sound echoes through the lobby. 27 people watch it happen. Not one person moves. 2 receptionists glance up, then quietly return to their screens. A man in a $2,000 suit steps over the water and around the injured stranger without slowing down. No one helps. Then one woman quietly steps out of the hiring line. If you want to know who a company really is, watch what it does to the people it thinks don't matter. If you enjoy stories where character matters more than status, subscribe, like this video, and join us. We've got many more unforgettable stories just like this one. He built this company from the floor up. Inherited a firm in freefall at 24 years old, 90 days from insolvency. Board members already drafting their resignation letters. Creditors calling before 8 in the morning. He had worked for 3 years without a vacation, without a weekend, without a single moment where the weight of it left his chest. He had rebuilt Vance and Cole Group from a company bleeding out on the sidewalk into one of the most talked-about mid-size firms in Phoenix. And he had learned, very quickly, that the hardest thing to rebuild wasn't a balance sheet. It was the culture inside the walls. He had done this before. Twice. Walked in without a name badge, without a title, without any of the armor that came with being Roland Kane, and just watched. The first time, he'd seen a security guard berate a cleaning contractor in front of 20 people, and not a single employee said a word. He had that guard reassigned by noon. The second time, he had watched 2 senior managers ignore a candidate who had traveled 3 hours for an interview and got told at the front desk that the slot had been canceled without notice. He'd personally called that candidate, apologized, and hired her 6 weeks later. Today is the third time. He came in expecting better. He stands beside his column and watches the lobby fill with the mid-morning business of people who believe they are being seen and people who are hoping not to be. He watches the way the receptionist smiles at Suits and barely lifts her eyes for everyone else. He watches the way the security guard near the elevator bank holds the door for a man in a tailored jacket and then lets it close on a woman carrying a portfolio. Small things, the kind of things that add up to everything, and then he sees her. The hiring queue runs along the left side of the ground floor reception area, cordoned off with that particular kind of retractable belt that suggests order while delivering indignity. There are maybe 12 people in it. Some have leather folders. Some have printed resumes stapled in the corner. Some are looking at their phones, rehearsing something in their heads. Elise Bowman is holding a single manila folder against her chest with both hands. She's near the middle of the line. Her clothes are clean, pressed with care, the kind of careful that takes effort and an iron and not enough time in the morning. The blouse is light blue, tucked in. The slacks are dark. One shoe has a small scuff near the toe that she has tried to cover with a marker and almost succeeded. She is not looking at her phone. She is not rehearsing anything. She is standing straight, her folder against her chest, her eyes forward, breathing like someone who decided that morning that the day was going to require every single thing she had, and she was going to give it. 2 women in front of her are talking to each other in that low, carrying voice people use when they want to be overheard. What is she even doing here? The second one glances back once quick, the way people do when they've already decided the answer before they ask the question. Probably will be gone by lunch. Elise hears it. Roland from across the lobby cannot hear the words, but he can see the moment land. He watches her jaw tighten, just barely, just for half a second, and then go smooth again. She doesn't turn. She doesn't respond. She breathes once, slowly, like someone letting a wave pass over them instead of fighting it. And then she looks down at her folder. What Roland cannot see is what happens behind her eyes in that moment. What Elise sees is her mother's hands. Small, dry hands, roughened from years of cleaning work, pressing once against the side of her head on a morning that feels like a different lifetime now. The kitchen of their apartment, early light, the smell of coffee that was already going cold because there had been no time. Her mother's voice, low and certain, the kind of voice that doesn't ask to be believed because it already knows it is right. Don't shrink, Elise. They can take the job. They cannot take the spine. Elise looks down at her folder. Then she looks up. Calm. Roland, from across the lobby, watches the whole of it happen in her posture. He doesn't know what she just decided. He only knows that something in her steadied, something that was already there got reconfirmed, and she is standing exactly as straight as she was before the words hit her. He shifts his weight on the crutches and keeps watching. Gail Renner walks like someone who has never once been uncertain about where she belongs. She comes from the direction of the elevator bank, red blazer sharp enough to cut, heels precise on the marble, a tablet in one hand and her assistant half a step behind her trying to keep up and look like keeping up is not an effort. She is senior HR manager at V&C Group, a title she has held for 7 years, a woman who mistakes efficiency for excellence and has never once been asked to examine the difference. She walks past the hiring queue without slowing down. She sees Elise the way certain people see things they've already categorized. A flicker of the eyes, a micro movement of the mouth, something between a wince and a decision, and then she turns to her assistant without breaking her stride. This is a corporation, not a charity intake. Her voice is not loud. It doesn't need to be. Pull her application first. Save us all time. The assistant nods without fully meeting Gail's eyes and makes a note. Gail moves on toward the elevator without looking back at the queue, because she has already handled it in her mind, the way she handles everything she considers beneath serious consideration. Across the lobby, Roland hears it. He heard all of it. His jaw tightens slowly, the way a fist closes when the decision has already been made and the body is just catching up. He doesn't move. He doesn't reach for his phone to call someone. He stands next to his column and holds very still, because he has learned over 3 years that the most revealing moments happen in the seconds after something ugly, in who moves and who doesn't, in who glances at the line and who looks away. He waits. He came in expecting better this time. He is watching a woman who works for him dismiss another human being in 11 words, and he is the only person in a 20-foot radius who reacted to it. He looks back at Elise, still in the line, still holding her folder, still standing exactly as straight as before. He has done this twice, seen things that needed changing and changed them. He came in a third time because he needed to know if what he built had held. If the culture had shifted or just the paperwork. The answer is still coming, but it is not going well. The elevator bank is gold-framed glass, 3 sets of doors in a row, and the center one opens first. Roland moves toward it. He miscalculates the angle, the way you do when crutches are new to you and the marble is smoother than it looks, and his left crutch slides an inch forward at the wrong moment. He goes down half a step, not all the way, not a full fall, but a genuine stumble, the kind that is ugly and real and cannot be performed, because no one performs a stumble that actually comes from not knowing how to walk correctly on borrowed equipment. He grabs for the door frame and misses. A hand reaches him first. It is small, and it reaches under his elbow without hesitation, and it steadies him with a grip that is not soft. It is practical, the kind of grip that comes from someone who has carried real weight and knows what support actually means. He gets his feet under him. The crutches settle. He is upright. He looks to his left. Elise Bowman is not looking at his face. She is looking at the floor, tracking his feet, making sure the crutches are planted correctly, making sure the situation is actually resolved and not just paused. Only when both rubber tips are down and he has his weight evenly distributed does she release his arm and step back into her place in the line, smooth and quiet, like the whole thing was barely a thing at all. Roland says, "Thank you." She nods once, just once, and she faces forward. She didn't look for recognition. She didn't check whether anyone saw her. She didn't give him a moment to reciprocate or respond or offer something back. Someone was falling and she caught them, and that was the beginning and the end of her calculation. Roland stands in front of the open elevator and doesn't get on it. He stands there for 3 seconds, maybe 4, long enough that the doors begin to close and he has to stick his crutch in to catch them again. She didn't help me because she needed anything. She helped because someone was falling. He gets on the elevator. He presses a floor he doesn't need to go to. He stands in the elevator alone and thinks about the woman in the blue blouse who pressed a first aid kit's worth of instinct into a single moment, and then went back to standing in a line where people were already writing her off. The interview waiting area on the hiring floor is 6 plastic chairs, a table with a water dispenser that needs a refill, and a sign that says please wait to be called in the kind of font that has never once made anyone feel welcome. Elise sits in the second chair. Her folder is on her lap. She is the only person sitting the way she is sitting, which is with her back not touching the chair, because her mother taught her that posture was free, and she was going to use every free thing available to her. She has been waiting 11 minutes. She counts them not out of anxiety, but out of the kind of attention to detail that comes from a life where being late has real consequences, where a missed bus means a missed shift, where a shift missed means rent not paid, and rent not paid means 2 younger sisters sleeping in a place that is already smaller than it should be. She is thinking about what she will say in the interview. She has rehearsed it in the mirror at 5 in the morning for 3 days. She knows what they are likely to ask. She knows what she can offer. She knows that the data management certificate she completed online at night, while her youngest sister slept on the fold-out, is real, is hard-earned, and means something even if the paper it is printed on would not impress the women in front of her in the lobby. She is called to be called. And then she hears it. A crash. Not glass, not loud, but heavy and real and wrong. The specific sound of something that should be supporting a person failing to do its job. 3 doors down the hallway, loud enough to make the receptionist at the end of the hall look up. Elise is already standing. She does not think it through. She moves down the hallway and she rounds the corner and Roland Kane is on the floor, one crutch sideways, the other completely out from under him, sitting at an angle that is not dangerous but is not okay, and he is trying to get his leverage back and finding the marble unhelpful. She is next to him in 4 seconds. She gets her arm under his shoulder and she says, quietly, "Don't rush it, you'll go down again." And she holds his weight while he gets the crutch repositioned and gets his feet under him, and it takes 30 seconds, maybe 40, and she does not rush him and she does not make noise about it and she does not look around to see if anyone is watching. Staff appear at the end of the hallway. Someone says they're calling for assistance. Someone else asks if they need medical. Roland says he's fine. Elise is still steadying him, and then Gail Renner appears. She comes from the elevator side, tablet in hand, her eyes doing the calculation that her brain has already finished before she's even stopped walking. "Miss Bowman." Her voice is not raised. It is the kind of flat that is its own threat. "Your interview slot is now or never. We have a schedule." Elise looks at Roland. Roland is stable. The staff are 3 steps away. He does not need her physically. He is not in danger. She looks at the interview room door. She looks at Gail. She looks at Roland one more time, and he is watching her with something in his eyes that she doesn't read because she is not looking at his face. She is running the math of the situation, the only math she has ever been allowed to use, the math of what is right versus what is safe. She stays. She stays until the staff reach them, until Roland's weight is no longer in any part her responsibility, until the situation is handled and not just paused. And when she steps back, she is already looking at Gail, and she already knows what is coming. Gail's voice is cold and final, the way decisions sound when they were made before the conversation started. "Then we wish you the best elsewhere." Elise accepts it. She does not argue. She does not explain. She does not tell Gail what she did or why or what it cost her. She nods, once, the same nod she gave Roland at the elevator, and she walks back to the waiting area and she picks up her folder from the second chair and she walks to the elevator. She does not cry. She presses the lobby button. She stands in the elevator alone and she breathes, slow and even, and she does not let the wave crash over her. She lets it pass under, because her mother taught her that and her mother is gone now, and the least she can do is keep carrying what she was given. Roland, still in the hallway, watches her go. The corridor feels colder than it did 60 seconds ago. He is standing in his own company, in his own building, wearing his own disguise, and he has just watched a person lose the only thing she came here for because she stopped to make sure a stranger didn't stay on the floor. He did this. The test is over. He is the one who failed it. The executive floor is different in every way a floor can be different. The marble is the same, but the silence is the managed kind, the kind that is produced by money and authority, and the understanding that noise is for people who haven't arrived yet. Roland's real office is at the end of the hall, glass, and steel, and the kind of Phoenix skyline view that makes the city look like it was designed for looking at. He has barely settled into his chair when the knock comes. Derek Foss, head of financial compliance, is 43 years old and has the face of a man who spent the morning hoping he was wrong and has just confirmed that he wasn't. He sets a folder on the desk. Dark blue cover, 3 tabs, the kind of presentation that means someone stayed up all night making sure the numbers were right before they let them become real. "We got the forensic accounting back," Derek says. Roland opens the folder. The numbers are patient and devastating. 18 months. 41 separate transactions. 19 shell companies, each of them layered carefully enough that you would have to know what you were looking for to find the pattern. Documented confirmed loss, $473,000. Estimated total, accounting for the movements that couldn't be directly traced but carried the same fingerprints, $1.2 million. Roland turns to the 3rd tab. The name at the origin of every thread is Marcus Trent, his uncle. His father's younger brother. The man who had called him every week for the first 6 months after his father died and told him that family was the only thing that lasted. The man who had stood in this office, in this building, and told the board that Roland was the right choice to lead the company through its worst period. The man who had been quietly stealing from that company for a year and a half. Roland closes the folder. He sits with it for a moment, the way you sit with something that changes the shape of everything around it. And then Derek adds quietly, he's already made contact with 3 board members. He's framing it as a concern about leadership stability. He's saying you've been distracted. Roland nods slowly. "Call an emergency board session. 90 minutes. Derek leaves. Roland sits alone in his office, and the city spreads out below the window in its indifferent, sunlit sprawl, and somewhere in the back of his mind, underneath the numbers and the logistics and the machinery of what comes next, is the image of a woman in a blue blouse carrying a manila folder through a lobby that didn't deserve her. She didn't even know my name. He opens his laptop. He has 90 minutes. The V&C boardroom is long and serious. A table that seats 14, windows that face east, a screen at the far end that has delivered more bad news in Roland's tenure than good. Marcus Trent is already there when Roland enters. Marcus is 61, silver-haired, built like a man who was once physically powerful and has since converted that into the kind of presence that fills a room by habit. He sits at the far end of the table, not at the head, because the head is Roland's seat, and Marcus has always understood the tactical value of positioning. He is calm, he is paternal. He has the expression of a man who has already decided how this meeting ends. He speaks first. "I want to say something before we begin." His voice is even, measured, the voice of someone who has practiced sincerity until it fits like a suit. Roland has done extraordinary things with this company. Everyone here knows that, but extraordinary beginnings need steady management as the company matures. I think what we're seeing is a young man who is stretched thin, and what he needs is support, not pressure. 2 of the board members nod. The door opens. Roland enters. He sets a tablet on the table without speaking. He connects it to the room screen. He pulls up the first slide, which is a timeline, clean and simple and completely sourced. He walks them through it. He does not perform anger. He does not raise his voice. He presents the data the way a person presents something they have already made peace with, which is to say without decoration and without mercy. 18 months, 41 transactions, 19 entities. He shows them the formation dates of the shell companies, 3 of which were incorporated in the same 48-hour window that Marcus was in Denver at a conference Roland paid for. He shows them the transfer amounts, the timing relative to quarterly reporting cycles, the specific accounts through which the money moved and where it ended up. He shows them the account that received the final aggregate. It is in Marcus Trent's name, not a company, not a fund. His name. Marcus lets the silence run for 5 seconds before he responds. This is a young man lashing out at family because he can't accept that he needs help. His voice is still even, still paternal, still performing the version of hurt that is designed to make other people feel guilty for the accusation. I have given my life to this company. I gave my brother's memory to this company. This is not who I am. Roland looks at him. He doesn't say anything for a moment. Then he nods slightly toward the boardroom door. It opens. 2 men enter. They are wearing the specific kind of unremarkable clothing that federal agents wear when they want to not be thought about until they need to be. Marcus looks at them. He looks at Roland. His voice, for the first time, loses its evenness. "You wouldn't," Roland says. "I did." The room is very quiet. Marcus stands slowly, and the men move to flank him, and he doesn't fight it because there is nothing left to fight with, and the boardroom door closes behind all three of them, and the remaining board members sit in a silence that is several different kinds of uncomfortable at once. Roland looks at the table. "My father told me once that you find out who a person is when everything is falling apart. He wasn't talking about crisis management." He pauses. "He wasn't talking about shareholders." He looks up. "He meant the person next to you when you go down, whether they stay or go." He closes the tablet. "I'd like to keep the meeting brief from here." Roland doesn't sleep that night. He sits in his office after the building has gone quiet and the cleaning crew has worked their way through the floor and left, and he opens the candidate processing system, and he runs a search he should have run 4 hours ago. He types Elise Bowman. The system returns her application file, flagged with a status designation he has never personally seen before because it exists in a category he did not know to audit. Process incomplete. Candidate voluntarily exited. He reads it 3 times. Voluntarily exited. She did not voluntarily exit. She was told to leave or lose the slot, and she chose to stay with a man on the floor whom she believed to be a stranger, and the system recorded her departure as a choice she made about the process rather than a choice she made about a person. He looks for a contact number. The number goes to voicemail. A full mailbox. The voicemail doesn't update. He looks for the address on file. The Southern District apartment building is the kind of building that has always been a stepping stone for someone and a ceiling for someone else, depending on which way you're going. The landlord meets Roland at the front entrance looking like a man who has answered one too many questions from people who arrive unexpectedly, which is to say he is tired and not interested in performing patience. He tells Roland, before Roland has finished the sentence, that the woman with the 2 sisters in Unit 14 moved out 8 weeks ago. "Evicted?" Roland asks. "Couldn't make rent, 2 months behind. I gave her an extra week because the kids were there." He looks at Roland without warmth. "She was a good tenant, quiet, kept the place clean, but rent is rent." A neighbor leans out from the stairwell landing above them, a woman in her 60s who has clearly been listening. "She moved out herself," the neighbor says. "Didn't wait to be pushed, packed everything in 2 trips and got a ride from someone with a truck, took her sisters." She pauses. "Tough kid, that one, works like she's running from something." "Do you know where she went?" Roland asks. The neighbor shakes her head. "Somewhere else she could afford, didn't say." Roland stands in the parking area of an empty apartment complex in the Southern District of Phoenix and looks at the city around him. The city does not look designed for looking at from here. From here it looks like what it is, which is a place that works for some people and grinds through others without stopping to ask how they're doing. He walks back to his car and sits in it for a while. "I made her invisible for an experiment." I forgot that experiments are made of people. He drives to see Joe Carter. Carter Fabrication sits 40 miles outside the city on a stretch of highway where the industrial and the agricultural blur together in the particular way that Phoenix's edges do: dust and machinery, heat that sits flat and heavy on everything. The plant runs metal fabrication for construction supply chains, the kind of work that is essential and invisible to everyone who isn't doing it. Joe Carter meets Roland at the gate the way old friends meet, with minimal words and a handshake that means more than the words would. "She applied 3 weeks ago," Joe says as they walk the exterior of the main floor. "I hired her same day. Couldn't not. She showed up in work clothes, not interview clothes. Told me exactly what she could do and what she couldn't and what she was willing to learn." He glances at Roland. "You don't get a lot of that." He leads Roland to the back section of the floor, where a rotation of workers is moving fabricated panels from a conveyor to a staging area. It is hot. It is loud with the background noise of machinery. It smells like metal and oil and effort. Elise is there. Her hair is tied back under a work bandana. She is wearing a company-issue safety vest over a worn t-shirt. She is moving crates with the systematic efficiency of someone who has found the fastest way to do the task and is executing it without wasted motion, not because she is trying to impress anyone, but because this is how she does everything. She doesn't notice Roland. Joe says, quietly at his elbow, Her mom passed 8 months ago. Cancer. The insurance lapsed about 3 months before the end. She was working the gap. He doesn't say it like a tragedy. He says it like a fact, because Joe Carter is the kind of person who gives facts the full weight they deserve without dressing them up. She's got 2 younger sisters, 14 and 11. She works mornings here and nights at a gas station on Route 9. I've offered her more hours. She takes what doesn't interfere with getting the girls to school. Roland watches Elise set a crate down on the staging platform. She wipes her forehead with the back of her wrist. She goes back to the conveyor without pausing. Has she ever complained? Roland asks. Not once, Joe says. Not to me, anyway. Roland stands at the edge of the fabrication floor and does not approach her. Not yet. He is not ready yet. Not because he doesn't know what to say, but because he knows the weight of what he owes her has to be held correctly before it can be offered, and he is still working out how to hold it. He watches her work. He watches the way she moves like someone who has decided that if this is what the day requires, then she will meet the day on its terms and not complain about the terms. He drove 40 miles to see her. He will drive 40 miles back, and it will not be enough, and he knows it. But it is what he can do right now. He tells Joe to let her know when the time is right that he may be in touch. Joe says she doesn't know who you are. No, Joe looks at him for a moment. You'd better mean it when you talk to her, Joe says. She has very good instincts for people who don't. He comes back a week later. He does not arrive in a car that broadcasts what he has. He parks 3 blocks from the gas station on Route 9 and walks in at 9:15 in the evening, which is when the shift slows down and the fluorescent lights feel too bright for the quiet. Elise is behind the counter. She looks up when the door opens. She does the assessment that every person who works a night shift at a gas station has learned to do in half a second. She lands on Roland, no crutches, not wearing a hoodie, looking like someone who has probably never needed to stop at this particular gas station, and she offers the measured, professional version of customer acknowledgement. He picks up a bottle of water he doesn't need. He sets it on the counter. He says, I was at Carter Fabrication last week. She looks at him more carefully now, not alarmed, not defensive, just recalibrating. He says, Joe Carter is an old friend of mine. He told me a little about you. Did he? It is not a question. I came to ask if you'd be open to a conversation, not here, somewhere you have time. Elise looks at him for a long moment. About what? About work, about what you're looking for. She doesn't answer immediately. She rings up the water. She gives him his change. She looks at him again, and he is aware that whatever she is reading in him is being read with instruments more accurate than most people have, because accuracy has been a survival skill for her for a long time. Saturdays, she says. I'm at the diner on Mesa from 11 to 1, if you can be there. He is there. The first Saturday, they talk for 40 minutes about the data management certificate she completed, about what the coursework covered, about what she thinks she could do with it. She talks with the clean, organized precision of someone who has been thinking about these things for a long time and is not used to anyone asking. Roland listens. He does not talk about the company yet. He comes back the next Saturday with groceries. He brings them to where she is living now, a single rented room in a house shared with 4 other people, and he leaves them on the kitchen counter without making a production of it. He brings a phone charger for her youngest sister, whose school requires digital assignments and whose charger broke 3 weeks ago and hasn't been replaced. He brings a book about animation for her middle sister, who draws constantly on whatever surface is available. Elise watches all of this with a wariness that is not unfriendly. She is not suspicious of him in the way that would make her close a door. She is careful in the way that people who have been disappointed by apparent kindness learn to be. They eat dinner together at the diner 3 times. On the 4th time, near the end of a quiet Tuesday evening when the diner is almost empty and the rain has started on Mesa Street outside the window, she tells him about her mother. She doesn't start with the death. She starts with before, with the person her mother was, with the way she made eggs in the morning, with the specific sound of her voice reading to the youngest one before bed, with the way she had worked 3 jobs for 11 years and never once given Elise or her sisters the sense that the weight was too heavy, because she believed that if you carried it without complaint, your children learned to carry, not to fear. And then she tells him about the insurance. Her voice gets quieter, not broken. Just smaller, the way a room gets when the heat goes off. The premium had lapsed in January. Her mother was diagnosed in February. The coverage gap was 91 days, which is a number that means nothing to most people and meant everything to the Bowman family, because 91 days without insurance and a stage 3 diagnosis is a number that becomes medical debt, that becomes the kind of anchor that follows a family for years. Her mother died in November. Elise had kept working through all of it. She had applied to V and C Group because the benefits package included full health care for immediate family members. Because one of the positions in the data management division would have given her a salary that actually covered the room her sisters needed. Because she had spent 3 months getting a certificate that she thought was the bridge between where she was and where they needed to be. Roland sits across from her at the diner table and holds the weight of what she has just said. He holds it very carefully because it is not his weight to set down, but it is his fault it exists in the shape that it does. He says, carefully, "I owe you more than I know how to say." Elise looks at him across the table. She is calm in the way that certain people are calm, the way that is not the absence of feeling but the management of it, the way that takes more strength than shouting. "Then don't say it," she says. "Just help me try again." He presents the offer on a Thursday. He describes the role carefully, accurately, without inflation. A position in the data entry and records management division. Benefits that begin on the first day. Healthcare that covers immediate family. A growth path that is real, documented, and dependent on performance. A salary that is fair rather than generous because he wants her to know it is earned. He does not tell her who he is yet. She listens to all of it. She looks at the offer letter. She is quiet for a long time. Then she says yes. She comes back to V and C Tower on a Monday morning. She comes through the main entrance this time, the front doors that face the street, and the lobby is the same cold marble and glass and elevator chimes, the same building that closed a door on her 2 months ago, and she walks through it with her back straight and her folder in her hand. But the lobby is not entirely the same. The chairs in the waiting area are new, warmer, not the indifferent plastic kind. The signs at the reception desk have been redesigned, plainer font, more words, the kind of signs that are written for the person reading them rather than for the company writing them. And on the wall near the hiring queue, in simple clean type on a white card, is a new posted policy. Every candidate is interviewed on the day they apply. No exceptions. Elise reads it once. She looks at it for a moment. Then she walks to reception and gives her name and is directed to the second floor. She finds the conference room without difficulty. The door is half open. She expects a hiring manager. She is prepared for a hiring manager. She has gone over her answers again, woken up at 5 to rehearse, pressed her clothes the night before with the iron that is shared between 6 people in the house. She pushes the door open. Roland Kane is sitting across the table, alone. No tablet, no notes, no other chair occupied. He looks at her when she enters, and there is something in his expression that is not what she expected from a hiring manager. She sits. She places her folder on the table. She waits. He speaks slowly, the way people speak when they have rehearsed what they need to say and decided that the rehearsal doesn't matter. What matters is the truth landing correctly. "I own this company," he says. "I am Roland Kane, CEO and owner of Vance and Cole Group." Elise is still. 2 months ago, I came into this building through the service entrance. I was wearing a gray hoodie. I had crutches and an ankle brace. I came in disguise because I wanted to see how this company treated people who had nothing to offer it in terms of status or connection. She is looking at him now in a way she was not looking at him before. Not angry, not shocked, something more complicated and more contained. "You were the man on the crutches," she says. "Yes." Silence. "You were the only person in this building that day who helped me without calculating anything. Twice. Both times without looking for anything back." He pauses. "And because I was in this building running a test, you missed your interview slot. And because I didn't know your name, and because this company's HR system failed you in about 4 different ways, I didn't find out what it cost you until I went looking." He stops. She sits with it. She sits with all of it, and he watches her face, which is doing something he cannot fully read because she is a person who has learned to process difficult things without putting them on the outside. She says, finally, "You were the reason my slot was gone." "Yes. And you know about my mother." "Yes." She looks at her folder on the table. "I'm not going to ask you to apologize," she says. "An apology won't change the shape of things." She looks back at him. "And I'm not going to pretend that what you did didn't cost something real." It did, but I also know that I made my choice that day. I would have made it again. That's not a performance, that's just who I am. Roland nods. I know, he says, but I need this job, she says, and her voice stays even. Not as charity, not as a correction. I need it because I earned the right to be considered for it and because my sisters need what comes with it, and you need to mean it. I do, Roland says. He slides the offer letter across the table. She looks at it. She picks it up. She reads every line, because she is someone who reads every line, and then she sets it back down and looks at him. I'll start Monday, she says. They walk out of the conference room together and take the elevator to the lobby. The lobby is fuller now than when she came in. There is a group of new hires being oriented near the reception area, 8 or 9 people with lanyards not yet attached to anything, looking slightly overwhelmed, which is how everyone looks in the first hour of something new and real. Some of the permanent staff are nearby, moving through the lobby on their various morning paths. Roland stops near the center of the lobby, close enough to the group that they look at him, and he speaks at a volume that carries without performing. This is Elise Bowman. He says it plainly, without introduction, without flourish. She earned her seat here, and she'll be helping me make sure no one else gets turned away from this company for the wrong reasons. He doesn't look at Elise when he says it. He says it to the room. Elise stands beside him. She does not smile wide. She does not thank him. She does not perform gratitude for a room that is watching her. She straightens, just a degree. That is her version of a standing ovation. The weeks that follow are not a montage of triumphant moments. They are work. They are the specific, unglamorous work of building something that should have been there before. Roland creates a new division. He calls it the Community Hiring and Talent Access Division, which is a long name for a simple idea, which is that the company will actively look for qualified people who do not look like the people the company has always hired, and it will remove the structural barriers that have been pretending to be standards. He appoints Elise Bowman to co-lead it. Gail Renner is reassigned. Not fired, repositioned, under Elise's oversight, in a role that requires her to implement the very policies she has been ignoring, which is either a punishment or a correction depending on how Gail decides to approach it. In the third week, Gail walks past Elise in the hallway near the main elevator bank. They nod. It is not warm. It is civil. It is the very beginning of a professional relationship that neither of them wanted, and both of them will have to build anyway, which is most of how the world actually works when people are trying to be better than they have been. Elise's sisters move into a 2-bedroom apartment in the East District. The oldest one, 14 and serious, the one who has been carrying more than a 14-year-old should carry since November, gets into the city's best public high school on an academic track that actually fits what she is capable of. The middle one, 11 and quiet in the way that artists are quiet, which is not silence but absorption, starts art class again. Real canvas this time, not the back of grocery store flyers. New supplies, colors she picks herself. The youngest one, 8 years old with a seriousness about the world that Elise recognizes as her mother in smaller form, begins a program at the community center that feeds into healthcare career tracks for young students. The career Elise once wanted for herself, the one she set aside to take care of everyone else, will not be lost. It will travel a generation forward and find its rightful home. Roland's office on the top floor of V and C Tower has a city view that makes Phoenix look like something that was planned with intention. All geometry and light from this height, the edges invisible. In the corner of the office, next to the window, is a small folding table. It is scuffed. It is the kind of table that you buy in a discount store because it is the only flat surface you can afford that doesn't take up permanent space in a room that is already too small. The legs are slightly uneven. Someone, at some point, tried to fix it with a piece of duct tape folded under the short leg. A new employee who is given a tour of the executive floor on her third day asks, while noting the contrast between the designer desk and the folding table in the corner, "Is that a design choice?" Roland looks at it the way he looks at things that matter more than they appear to. "Something like that," he says. He doesn't explain it further. He doesn't need to. Late afternoon. Phoenix light goes gold before it goes dark, and the top floor catches it fully. Elise's voice, quiet and unhurried. "When a door closes on you, it's not the end. I know that sounds like something you put on a poster. It didn't feel like a poster when I was standing in that elevator alone with a folder against my chest and nowhere to go. It felt like a wall. It felt like evidence. It felt like all the time someone looked at me and made their decision before I'd open my mouth, and this time the system agreed with them. But a wall and an end are not the same thing. I know that now. I think I knew it then, even when I couldn't feel it. Sometimes what looks like a closed door is just a hallway before the right one. And the right door, when you finally reach it, doesn't care what you were wearing when you knocked. It doesn't care how your shoes looked or what the women in the line in front of you said. It doesn't care about any of the things that the wrong doors used to care about. It just asks, can you do the work? Are you willing to show up? I have never once not been willing to show up. That's not a gift, that's my mother, and she gave it to me on purpose. So I carry it on purpose. Every day, if this story hits something in you, something about dignity, about being underestimated, about people who keep showing up even when the system keeps closing doors on them, drop a comment below. Tell me about a time you or someone you know kept going when every door seemed shut. I read every single one. If you want more stories like this, stories with real stakes, real people, and real emotion that doesn't let you go until the end, subscribe to this channel right now. There is a button right there, and it is free, and it means you will not miss what comes next. And if Elise's story meant something to you, if her mother's words meant something, if the folding table in the corner of that office means something to you now, hit the like button. Not for the algorithm, even though the algorithm notices. Do it because this story deserves to reach the person who needs it today. Because somewhere right now, there is someone standing in a line with a folder against their chest and a scuffed shoe and a mother's voice in their head. They need to know the right door is still coming.